Hi, my name is Tim Hansen and I wrote the song Don't Be a Dick. So the first song that ever had a really big impact on me was Moonlight Shadow, a song by Mike Oldfield, and it was sung by Maggie Riley. It must have been like the early 80s that came out, like 82, 83, and that song I remember it used to almost make me want to cry because it was so beautiful when I was a kid, and to this day I still listen to it and I still have the same reaction, and yeah, it'll probably be my first ever and longest ever favourite song. So the first song that I heard that made me think that maybe there was something in this songwriting business was Cornflake Girl by Tori Amos. I've been learning piano since I was a little kid, but that was the first song that I'd ever heard that I first of all really loved, that also had piano in it in a big way, and it made me want to play piano like her. And she's like a monster on the piano, and I really models the way that I play piano on her. So it's kind of hard for me to pin down what the first song I ever wrote was, because I've been writing songs forever since I was a little kid. But I guess if you want me to say what song I wrote where I was like, actually this is a really good song and I'm really proud of it, was actually a song I wrote for my sister's wedding about 7 years ago, just called I Really Love You. I'm still really proud of that song, and I think it captured the sentiment exactly, and I should get around to releasing it so that more people can hear it instead of just my family. So there are so many songs that I wish I wrote, but I guess I'll talk about the one song that right now I'm like, man, I wish I wrote that, and that's Goodbye by German artist Parrot. It is not like any song I've ever heard before. It's just like from another planet, and it's beautiful, but in this really eerie, weird way. I can't get enough of it. One day I'm going to write a song just like that. Favourite song of all time? That is a pretty big question to ask a guy. So I'm going to go with Middle of the Hill by Josh Pike, which is, considering my age, a relatively recent song. But the very first time I ever heard that song, it just straight away struck this chord deep down inside me and made me think of my childhood and how, in some ways, great it was. And how, as we get older, we kind of look back on our childhood and remember how things just seemed so significant back then, but now there's all these other bigger problems going on, and it'd be great just to go back and just be in that world again, just for a day. I don't know. It's kind of like a big cuddle. I wrote this song, Don't Be a Dick, for a cabaret that I wrote earlier this year. And the cabaret, the main theme of the cabaret is how we treat each other in contemporary society, which I think we treat each other pretty badly. I think there's kind of a feeling of incivility that has kind of crept in to the way we interact with each other over the last 10, 15 years. And I actually think it's a much bigger problem than on face value it might seem. We don't have to agree with each other, but we are all in this together, and so we have to find a way to get along. And it's one thing to disagree with another person's ideas, it's a totally different thing to just treat other people like they're not even human. And I'm not talking about the big things like refugees or the way we treat Indigenous Australians, although they are definitely appalling. I'm more talking about just how we interact with each other on a day-to-day basis. So don't be a dick. It's just like that, like, just don't be a dick. So the song that I wrote that best describes me is a kind of obscure one. I don't have a recording of it. I only ever sort of play it mostly for myself. But it's a song I wrote when I was living in New York a few years ago, and I was doing a music theatre writing course, because one of the main ways that I write music is music theatre and cabaret. And we all had to write a song about our hometowns. And I grew up in Orange, New South Wales, and I wanted to go home and write this funny song about Orange with a funny name, but I was so homesick at the time that what came out instead was this very sad song about how difficult it was for me growing up in Orange. I was gay, I am still gay, growing up in the 80s and 90s, and it wasn't a great place to be. And I left Orange feeling like I basically had no choice but to leave Orange. And, you know, here I am a man 20 years later, and I still don't really know where I belong. And in my heart of hearts, Orange is home, but at the same time, I just could never go back there. So that's the song that best describes me, and one day I'll get around to actually recording it and putting it out there in the big bad world. I also write a lot of instrumental music, like string quartets, those kinds of things. And the song that I wish that people would listen to more is actually a cello quartet. There's no words, it's not really a song, it's a piece of music. It's called Traveller. And I wrote it again when I was in New York, and again when I was really, really homesick. And it just came out of me. Normally it takes me months sometimes to write an instrumental piece, but I wrote this from beginning to end in a week. And again, it kind of is just this expression of all these feelings of just like yearning for home, but not knowing where that was. And I was lucky enough a few years ago to work with this amazing cellist, Ashley Bathgate, who recorded all 4 parts in a studio, and it's like one complete piece of music now. It's on my website. That's the only place you can hear it as far as I'm aware. Maybe it's on YouTube, I don't know. But I think it's the best thing I've ever written, and I wish people would listen to it more. The song I'm going to release next, that's a toughie. I mean, I'm kind of new to this game. I spent the last 15 years of my life doing pretty much concert music, a bit of music theatre, a lot of music with young people. And while I've always been writing songs, it's always been something that's more for, intimate one-on-one things, not for like wide release. So this is pretty new for me. The answer is I don't know what song I'm going to release next, but I am definitely going to be doing a lot more of this.